Thanks for tuning in to Electric Bike Journal. Today we're taking a look at the Benno RemiDemi XL. This is a retro-inspired electric long-tail cargo bike that features Benno's etility design. An etility detail there meaning that they are more than just a cargo bike, it's an utility bike. So let's take a look at this new model from Benno, the XL version of the RemiDemi, learn all about the accessories, features, and how well it performs. Well, if you're looking for an electric cargo bike or you just want to learn more about the RemiDemi XL, stay tuned. We'll get all into the details on this bike, but also keep an eye out for the rest of the individual reviews as we lead up into our group review on multiple electric cargo bikes. So we'll have those all linked down below for you to go through them. Nice little playlist for you. Be sure to tune in for that to learn more about all the bikes. Maybe there's more than just this one out there for you, or maybe this is the right bike for you. So that being said, let's get into the details. Topping out at $4,599, you can get a Class 3 Bosch Performance Sport powered RemiDemi XL. For the case of our test, we do have the Class 1 Bosch Performance powered one. It is slightly cheaper, but they do share all of the same details outside of that drive unit. This has 20-inch wheels with 3.6-inch wide fat tires. It sits on an aluminum frame with a steel fork and has a max payload capacity of 355 pounds. I know if you go online, it will say a higher number, but that's also including the gross weight of everything. So the bike included there, which does come in at 65 pounds. There will be 3 different colorways available as well. We have this nice anthracite gray, which is I think a really cool color and kind of adds to that utility vibe of the RemiDemi XL, and you can choose between a 400 watt-hour or a 545 watt-hour battery. It is worth mentioning that this frame is compatible with a dual battery setup, so you can get an additional battery and really maximize that range. The frame itself is that aluminum tubing, and you do have that steel fork on there. It's a very rigid, stiff frame, but that does not impact the riding characteristic. I think it is really having to do with just the size, the geometry, how they designed the frame, but also the fat tires up front really make it very smooth while riding. And it was kind of a surprise because you get that two-sided feeling of very stiff and firm planted bike, but when you hit those bumps, it's nice and smooth. We have Magura MT30 hydraulic disc brakes, both front and rear. The front being a 4-piston caliper, the rear with a 2-piston caliper. We have 180mm rotors front and rear. Very smooth, really great brakes. I wouldn't think of many others that I would swap those out with. I really like the lever feel. I think Magura has some of the nicest feeling levers, and it's nice to see that on this bike. The drivetrain is a hybrid Shimano Sora Acera 9-speed drivetrain. So we have the Acera shifter and the Sora derailleur. And like I said, it's a 9-speed. So while pedaling, you have plenty of gears for the very steep hills, or maybe when you're under load and you need a cadence that's comfortable, you can shift into an easier gear to keep your cadence smooth and comfortable. And equally, when you're pushing it and you're at the top end of that pedal assist, just cruising through town on those flat straightaways, you aren't over pedaling. It's got a nice high enough gear for you to keep, again, a very smooth, comfortable cadence while pedaling. Both drive units from Bosch are 250 watt drive units with 75 Newton meters of torque. They are just calibrated and tuned differently for each model of those drive units to have a Class 3 or a Class 1 rating. Now, both of them will use this LED remote controller on the handlebars. There is no display. Some of you might be concerned that there's no display, but with the Bosch Flow app, you can pair to this bike very quickly, nicely. From there, you can customize your riding experience, the different tuning modes between the pedal assist modes, but more importantly, you can go to the ride mode and pull up a display that is all of your speed and all the other data that you're looking for. Now, I said you have the choice between a 400 watt-hour or a 545 watt-hour battery at checkout. That choice is exclusive for the Performance drive unit, the Class 1. The Performance Sport, you only have the option of the 545 watt-hour battery, which I think is what people are going to cater to anyways, or what you'll likely be more interested in. There isn't much of a weight difference between the two, and being able to have the larger battery of those two battery sizes is just really going to allow this bike to be a little bit more efficient, just the way that battery drain is on a large battery. So the 545 watt-hour battery has a range estimation of about 30 to 87 miles. We did put that to the test and found it to be pretty spot on. Again, those are just loose numbers. If I have kids on the back or a bunch of gear hauling dog food, whatever it is, and it's a windy day and I have to go straight up a hill, yes, I'm gonna see an impact on my range, and if I'm gonna be in turbo the whole time, that's gonna impact my range as well. Let's talk about rider comfort and fit. A very comfortable seat, ergonomic bars, you're in a very upright seated posture. The overall window for riders that they kind of gauge and say can fit on this bike are between 5'1" and 6'2". So being on the taller side of that window, I myself and a couple other of our testers found that the reach felt kind of short. The bike felt kind of tight, which I found unique. The overall reach distance and where you sit and where your handlebars are if you are taller makes this bike feel much shorter than it is. It measures in about 74, 76 inches, depending on if that rack is on there. And that doesn't make it the shortest bike on test, but I think where you sit and where the handlebars are and where you're making contact, it makes this bike feel a little bit shorter than it really is. The rack off the back sits about 26.5 inches up off the ground, which makes getting kids up there, putting some gear on the back. It's one of the lower deck heights of the bikes on test, and that is worth mentioning. If you are not 6 foot tall or taller, you have to think about how high you're lifting things up, and if you're putting a kid into a kids carrier in the back, you don't want to be lifting too high. It gets uncomfortable. I'll go ahead and step around here as I'll do with the rest of the bikes. This is on the center stand, so the number's gonna be a little bit higher, but the step over height isn't too bad. It's about knee height for myself. It's gonna be a little bit lower once it's off the center stand. Very easy to lift your foot up over and get onto. There's nothing in the way, and it's a nice wide spot as well on that down tube to be able to clear your foot. And this is very important on a cargo bike when you have a lot of gear, weight, kids, things moving around in the back. Being able to have a good solid balance point on the bike to be able to get off the seat and get back on the seat is very important. So a nice low step through frame design is a plus for us. And when it comes to handling and maneuverability, the RemiDemi XL is very easy to handle and move around, especially at lower speeds. If you're pedaling off of the street and kind of turning into another street or a crosswalk, or you gotta quickly make a exit off a bike path into a little ramp area, the bike turns very nicely. The handlebars, you can get this around and make very tight radius turns. So that's why I would say that the RemiDemi XL has a very comfortable speed window of where this bike feels really great at, and I think that is kind of between that 13 and 18 miles per hour. Whether it be windy, steep, charging downhill, any of those environments in that window of speed, it feels very smooth, very comfortable. And as you get going slower, it's very easy to manage. At 65 pounds, it's not a lot of bike. The weight, the balance, everything sits very low. So it is easy to handle when you are going slower. But if you are taller, again, just worth mentioning, might feel a little unsettled. You might feel a little unsettled when you are going faster and need to move the bike around quickly. Speaking of speed, I do know and am well aware that this is the Class 1 model and not the Class 3 model, so it might feel out of place with the rest of the bikes in the group test. However, I didn't find this one dramatically falling off the edge of the tail of the pack. I felt it keeping up. And it was really just on steep hills, sustained climbs, that this one just started to drift back a little bit sooner than the rest of the models. But average speed, 12-mile loop in turbo, average speed was 16.5 miles per hour. When it got to the steeper hills, still in turbo, unloaded, I saw it drift down to about 13.5 miles per hour at the tail end of the hill climb. Once it leveled out, right back up to speed, and flipping around, doing the hill the other direction in eco. Did see this kind of dipping down into 4.5 miles per hour. But when you have turbo there and you're maybe not doing a 12-mile loop exclusively in turbo and you are reserving that for those hills, you're gonna be able to do almost 3 times faster speed in that environment to be able to have a much quicker ascent up those hills. I would assume that the Class 3 model would have a little bit more oomph. We do have another bike with that Class 3 Bosch Performance Sport motor on there, so we were able to get a feel for that drive unit. It is on a different bike, so things are different. But if you are looking for something that is going to have just all the oomph, all that extra, we would definitely encourage you to look at the Class 3 just to have a little bit extra boost at a higher speed. Now I mentioned it not dramatically feeling like it's falling off the edge of the pack. It's because I didn't feel that way at all. I rode this bike first, so I had a clean pallet for that 12-mile loop, and being able to do that loop, see what my average speed was, see how I did on those climbs, and to see my overall time for those 12 miles. At no point was I pushing hard, breathing hard. I had it in turbo the whole time. I got back with a 61% battery, still on that 545 watt-hour battery, and an estimated range from the Flow app at 19 miles. So, 12 miles done, 19 miles left. That's 31 miles. That's overachieving the expectation of what they are projecting for estimated range by a whole 1 mile. That's unloaded though. That's myself. This is the kind of terrain, the route I did, but it is a very good perspective and example of how it performs for efficiency and range. As I got onto the other bikes and started looking at the rest of the numbers in the test, average speeds went up just a little bit on the other bikes, just because that Class 3 rating. So on the flat straightaways, I was able to push harder and go a little bit faster. But when it got to the hills, speeds started to look very, very similar climbing. And when going over to the eco mode and doing that climb again, the speeds got back into looking very, very similar as well. So be sure to check out the rest of the videos to see how the rest of the bikes performed in those environments. Wrapping up the speed performance details on the RemiDemi XL, I really do like the gearing that they chose for this bike. I think it works very well for it. You have plenty of low-end gearing available for when you have the weight off the back, and when you're unloaded and you want to cruise those flat straightaways very quickly, you have that gearing there for you as well. It is something that definitely irks me when I'm over spinning on a bike, and when you have a bike like this and you have to make a decision from the brand side, for hills or cargo exclusively, and adapting that to have the right range of gearing to make the rider comfortable, it's not always going to be perfect for you. So this one as a whole, I think, is a very good average gear ratio to kind of do the flat ground stuff as well as the hills very comfortably. All in all, we're big fans of what Benno is doing. The bikes that he's able to create and the evolution of these models is really cool. I do like that retro inspiration between, the Boost or the 46er, the RemiDemi, now the XL. They've really got a great collection, and it doesn't stop there. We like all of the accessories and options that they create for your bike. When you go on their website, you're looking at a model. As you scroll down, they actually have like a chart and show representation of different configurations of how to load this bike. The RemiDemi XL here can fit 2 maxi seats on the back, which is really impressive for such a short bike, seemingly. To be able to fit 2 kids carriers back there is very impressive. Ours, we outfitted with the passenger kit, and that's gonna be the floorboard, the little side skirts, and the passenger pad. Additionally, we added the front tray with the tote that goes up there and the 3/4 rail to really make this a everyday people transporter, as well as grocery runs and basic cargo as well, being able to throw stuff up front and in the back. But the accessory options don't stop there. I think I went online and counted, over 20 different options you can get just for the RemiDemi. That I think is great, and that's something that we really like that Benno is doing with the brand and with their models, is being able to outfit them to really have that utility design. Overall, the RemiDemi XL is a solid performer. All of our testers were very satisfied riding it, felt very comfortable, very much like the power. After getting on other bikes, having Class 3 ratings, throttles, this and that, obviously your gears start turning and you think, oh man, I want more power, which they offer that with the Class 3 models. So having that same experience we had with this one, and knowing that there's an option for a slightly faster pedal assist mode, really puts the RemiDemi XL up there as a great bike to consider. Again, topping out at $45.99, RemiDemi XL is a solid contender, and we're looking forward to bringing it into the group review to see how it performs. Well, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave those down below. Do our best to answer, get you some more info, and stay tuned for the rest of the reviews in the lineup as we lead up to our Cargo Bike Roundup for 2024. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.